Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Wanderings podcast. My name is Pedro Bonatto and I am a photographer and a musician. The artworks I create are inspired by fashion, history, mythology, and cultures from around the world. My goal with this show is to share the creativity of the people who have inspired my own journey, and I hope their stories will inspire you too. And this episode is a perfect example of this inspiration. My guest today is my good friend Viktoria Muzzatti, a Canadian visual artist that creates beautiful paintings and drawings taking inspiration from nature, literature, fantasy, and mythological stories. In this episode, we talk about the process of making art, balancing family and creativity, and taking inspiration from mythological themes, from fairies in the woods to magical foxes. I highly recommend you check out her Instagram @LadyTor and see her artwork to put some visual context to what we're talking about in this interview. I met Viktoria about 5 years ago when I was going through a big transformation in my life, and she certainly helped me navigate some turbulent and exciting times. And her aesthetics and interests have influenced some of my current fine art photography projects. This was the last episode I recorded at my home in Toronto, right before my wife and I decided to move to Europe and start a year of travel. I hadn't seen Viktoria for a few years, so the beginning of the episode has a little bit of us catching up, but what we said is relevant to the rest of the interview, so I decided to keep it in this episode. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with Viktoria Muzzatti. This is, I have to explain to you, so this is the mic.
Oh,
right.
What's the fluff all about?
So the fluff...
Absorb sound?
Yeah, like this is called dead cat fur.
Okay.
That's how it's the technical term. And basically this doesn't let the wind hit. So if you're outside, actually you don't need it right now. Let's say there's a lot of wind. You know, like when you're talking on the phone or in your phone goes like,
yeah.
like on the microphone? This thing picks it up and lets the wind go around. So then you put this and there is no...
Cute.
Yeah, it's a cute thing. But we don't need it because there's no wind inside the house. So, yeah. So...
I wonder if that's what my dream was about, because I dreamt of you and Yana last night. And you guys had some sort of like gadget that you were showing me, and it was related to an app on a phone.
Really?
And you remember those Tamagotchis?
Yes.
It felt like it was something like that. Like something that interacted with you, that it was like a part of an app, and it was something that we were all a part of.
Oh, wow.
And then there was like some photos being taken in like a fountain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was very
insane.
Vivid and very visual. And
That's
it was
insane.
like, I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But now that I piece it together, it's like you guys are going away, and it's like maybe that's all the colorful stuff. And
that's, the water taking you somewhere.
And even like your place is like completely different.
Right.
Yes, like it's so creative now. Not that it wasn't before. But
yeah, no,
like,
we slowly started.
It really looks like artists live here.
Thank you. That's cool. Yeah, that's such a good place to start, because we haven't seen each other in like, I think like 3 years or so, maybe
been 3
more.
years?
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah,
wow.
And
since I moved to Bolton.
Yeah, around that time. Yeah, and since then you got married, you had kids.
Yeah, kid.
Yeah. But thinking of another one, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Not anytime soon, though. Not anytime soon.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah.
But again, from what I've learned, they come when they want to come.
Yeah, no, we'll talk a lot all about that. But I like that you started with your little like dream about it, and because people are going to be listening, right? So then this we're mentioning because I was showing you the microphone and. Anyway, my little setup here, and but yeah, like the house here, we started over like literally the last 3 years. We started literally adding things to it. Like this wall was all white, and then we decided to put like a blue background, and then now it's this gold background and this flowery things and
This
yeah,
works.
costumes and artworks all around, including yours that is here and upstairs. And
Well, I remember this was the most active corner. But
yes.
It's like expanded everywhere.
Yeah. This was for people listening, we have a little music corner, but now it's filled with boxes because Yan and I are going to go for extended travel in Ukraine, in Europe, but that's on a different episode. Like I'm not going to talk about this right now, but yeah, so like that's how we are. I mean, interesting that you with your superpowers and witch powers can see things. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I met you like, I don't know, like 5 years ago, I guess. Yes, 2014. Mm-hmm. And we were both in this I think it's like a medieval festival.
It was fairy festival. It was my first show.
Yeah, mine too. And I was going there to drum, and then I met you, and I saw your art, right? And then I thought, oh wow, that's so cool. And then I stalked you for a few weeks to for us to, and then we became friends. And so let's talk a little bit about your art. Right? Okay. You do paintings. And how would you describe, like, I'm not going to start right away. How do you usually describe the kind of artwork you do?
I would say that it is magical and is definitely fantasy-like, but I wouldn't say it's a hardcore fantasy style. Mm-hmm. There's a bit of realism to it. I'm not a technical artist, so I'm not really good at those specific details. So I leave a little room for, I don't know, I guess. I feel like I'm being recorded. Oh, you feel like we're being recorded? Damn it! Yeah,
let's forget this guy. I'll put it away.
I actually forgot that we were being recorded.
Good. Yeah.
And then,
sorry to remind you.
Then I became aware, and I'm like, oh no, what am I saying?
Don't worry about it. Like, it's normal. Like, whenever I hear myself, I'm like, first of all, I say like a lot. I say a lot. Yeah. And I start with one phrase. And it's not the drugs. It's just the way my brain works.
Yeah.
It goes into something else. And then I remember something. It's like, Pedro, just say something. But we'll forget about this. Don't worry about it. Okay. But anyway, so you are... I remember when I saw your stuff was exactly like that. Like you had this... it's of course fantasy based because there's a lot of elements that are like from fantasy, but you had it was like very like natural. There was a lot of images, and of course like we're gonna link everything to show notes. People can go to your like website and check everything out. But you have like a lot of like nature forests and things like that. And then you use a lot of there's a lot of usually like female characters, right? With like long hairs and things like that. Yeah. And sometimes you have some animals that have some significance. And I always remember the fox.
Yes, one of my favorite animals.
Yeah. Why is that?
They're just so cute. To me, it's like a mixture of a dog and a cat. So I don't know. I like their color. I like that they're like shapeshifters in a way. Like there's a lot of myth around them changing into people, and they're sly, which is not really a good thing, but I'll give you an example. They're really, really protective of their families. So a fox will do anything to protect their family. And that would even be to, I guess, sort of confuse a predator and make them think that something different is happening just so that they could keep their family safe. So they use their deception to protect the ones they love. It's not just and to obviously, find their own prey too, but it's something they do because of what they care about, their loyalty to their family. They're magical.
Yeah. And how did you get you just got drawn to like reading like myths or something about that, or you saw a few, or how did that get, do you remember?
I think it was the fox first that lured me in, and I saw them a lot as a kid, and they always sort of just appeared. Like you didn't see them coming; they were just suddenly right beside you.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
At least what I remember when I was a kid and going on walks with my father. But Yeah, and then I looked into it a little more, and there's actually a Japanese myth, the kitsune, I believe it's called. And it is about a shape-shifting fox that becomes a woman. And she completely leads this man astray. Like, she builds false kingdoms, and he thinks he lives there, but he's actually living in the dirt.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's really like drawn out, and it's pure illusion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the negative sides, but it can be interesting.
Yeah, and they're like cautionary tales
in play, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting. I didn't know about this Japanese one because, as you know, like I really like mythology and all those things. Like, and I recently did a photo like inspired by Rusalka, that is like basically the Slavic, like Russian, Ukrainian, Polish version of mermaids. And the interesting thing is that they had these stories. I mentioned because I'm always interested in how different cultures connect those things. And then they had originally this Rusalka, which is this mermaid. It was related to spring rites, because it's when you start going back to harvest and all those things. So they were like very like motherly and very like feminine and very like in pre-Christian traditions in Slavic countries, because they were basically pagans until the expansion of like with like Orthodox Church going there and all those things.
Right.
So, but then in the 18th century, when they started rediscovering the myths about this Rusalka and about all they basically started recreating in all the stories about mythology. But then they reinterpreted it with the view from from the Greeks, right? Which is more like women as temptress, which is the same idea as that.
Like a patchwork.
That, she lures you in, and if you were dumb enough to be taken by her, you go to the depths of the ocean, right? Yeah. So I was thinking like that this is interesting just from that point of view of like, when it's not about male or female, just about the idea of you being like not forgotten, like that you are being deceived or deceiving yourself with about your own situation, kind of.
But I think too, another interesting point is it's bringing you back to wildness, because a lot of this takes you into nature or into your base nature, which can be perceived as a bad thing, but it is our original state as well. Yeah. And I think sometimes folklore and myths are nudging us back there or reminding us. And sometimes it looks so bad and so scary and so messed up because we're so out of touch.
Right.
And that's the only way we can interpret it. But spend a little more time there and
you feel right at home. Right?
Yeah. But don't get too carried away either, because you'll wake up realizing you've been living in the dirt and eating slugs. At least that's what that kitsune myth was a lot like. At least the version I read.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I can't remember the author, but it was a novel, The Fox Woman.
The Fox Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like about this kinds of like mythological like dreams and things. Like Yana told me Yana's my wife, in case people wonder who's talking about this girl. She had this dream, and I mentioned this because she had related to this Rusalka, which is this mermaid style. There is this one, it's Baba
Yaga.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So, which is sort of like the same kind of idea, that's like this old woman that is like... She's
pretty scary though.
Yeah, she's very scary.
She's supposed to be scary.
So that's the other version of it, which is like ostensibly like I would say Jungian, in Jungian terms, it's like the bad incarnation of
she's
the woman
old
figure,
witch,
the old
lady.
Yeah. So, but she had this dream about Baba Yaga, and because I'm going to tell the dream because it's interesting.
Yeah, I want to know.
It's usually so a year ago, maybe months ago, and because we were like a very turbulent time in life and deciding things and all that. And I was, if I remember correctly, because that's how I remember, because I wrote it down, because it's like, oh wow, you had this very cool, interesting dream and very appropriate. So I was piloting this like, like this old style plane that has like the how do you call the flaps and like old style, like First World War planes,
like almost like a Great Gatsby style.
Yes, and it was all messed up, and I was piloting the thing. And Yana was home, and she could see me, though, because it's a dream.
Seeing
so
you
I was,
struggle,
and there. And behind me, there was this Baba Yaga.
Oh, my goodness.
She was messing up the plane. And then Yana
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but
no,
it's a really
it's cool.
good
It's
image.
Really fun. Yeah, and then... Oh, it's a very cool dream. So she goes like, and she says, apparently you have to sing to the Baba Yaga to calm her down,
please her,
please her and all that. So she started doing that to help me be able to guide the plane and bring back home. But she started getting very tired.
Yana.
And she was here and she could see me there, right? And she saw this giant spider on the corner because it started getting nighttime. She saw this giant paper spider, from what I remember she told me, and like a black paper, like walking to our bathroom, and she was next to our bedroom, like our bed, and she was still like, she had to keep awake to sing, and then she actually fell asleep. It's like those dreams that you get asleep, and then she woke up. And she woke up in a panic because she didn't know.
She forgot,
She couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
Like, sort of like, so I mentioned this just because, well, I don't know why I mentioned this, but it's like, it's just an interesting thing how all this mythological, like, themes,
archetypes.
They
if you want to go to Jung,
but like, and they really, and independently if the Jung interpretation of this is correct or not, it might be, might not be. I think it is, but who knows, right? But it's interesting how it appears and how certain artists, which is why I was like going into that, are drawn to them, and they really want to depict those things, and they depict them over and over again, like in different iterations, trying to find those things. At least that's how. It's sort of like how I see whenever I see your work, that you go into a certain theme and then you do over time, if you see through...
You can grow apart from it,
and also like you can get those themes and try to develop them, and then over time you see what they're about, right?
Yes, and they communicate back to you.
Then how do you feel on the stuff you've been doing? How is that communication going?
Well, it's funny you ask me that, because I feel like I'm at a point right now where I am exploring something new, but I don't know what it is yet. And for me, it hasn't been so much a myth or a theme as it's been more so about light and solar energy. Like, I've always been so lunar based, and I identify with the moon and the feminine and mystery and the dark and the unconscious, but the sun has been so appealing to me, and the image of the sun, warm colors and warm feelings. I mean, warm feelings have always been there in my art, in the sense of feeling cozy because it's cold, because it's dark, because it's a little bit scary. But now I feel like this warmth has built up, and it's time to let the windows open, or it's time to let more stuff come in, or it's time to let more stuff out. I don't know how this is manifesting yet, but I'm at a different point, and my main sort of guide right now is the sun in terms of this and light.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because you always had like very like things at night, and you had
blues, purples were very strong for me. Like, they just flowed out of me.
Yeah, and whenever there was like some like warm like lights, they were always like inside a place, and like for example, right now here we have one image that I really like.
Candlelight.
Yeah, it's a candlelight by the window, like or whenever you had like, I remember there was this couple. On one of your paintings that is like the couple, and then there was a house, and then inside the house there was like some lights. Like, so it's like there is always implied light somewhere. And I never thought, it's funny because like whenever I have one of yours, which is one of the first artworks that you have that I bought from you on that first day that I met you, it's like this red-headed woman, and there is like the moon, and you can only see her from the back. And there is the lake. It's sort of like
I can't remember this
you can't
one,
remember
Pedro.
this painting? Yeah, I'll bring it to you.
Okay.
But I really like it, and even let's say it's all like nighttime, like a scene, not all, but like the idea is like, to my mind, they're all nighttime, but they're never really, they're not dark.
No,
like,
no. It's not like a true darkness that I paint, even though some people may perceive my art to be kind of gothic.
Oh.
But I wouldn't say it is. Like,
Not at all.
there are definite gothic elements, and I love that aesthetic. I always will. But it's not quite it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say about this sun motif, like, because recently, a year and 8 months ago, you said like you had your first child, right? So can you talk a little bit about how that changed?
Oh, yes.
So it's a very small question.
Yeah. It changed things a lot. So I always wanted children. It was just something I never planned or never really knew when was the right time to do that. And I had just gotten engaged in November. And planning my wedding, we put down a lot of deposits. So a lot of things were set in motion for our wedding date and everything. And then early February, I found out I was pregnant. It was a surprise, not planned, but we welcomed it. We were like, wow, this is a blessing. This is beautiful. Like, we want kids anyway, so let's let this be. Yeah, and it's hard. You don't sleep a lot, but she is the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me. She is my light, so I guess maybe that is a big factor as to why I'm so drawn to warmer and lighter things. But the other thing is she is art too. Like, she's a manifestation of my body. She is another work of art, and she is a part of my life as an artist. Like, I am a mother, but we work together. Like, she's there with me when I'm doing the business side of my work and where I'm wrapping orders, and she's pulling the tape out of the dispenser, and like we're together. We go to the post office together. The actual creation of art, I sometimes need a little more alone time for, just because there's a lot going on there that you need to be fully focused for that. But she's there too for some moments of painting, and she inspires me. She inspires me to explore more, I think, too. Like, she gives me that feeling of there's more to this simple thing than I think there is. And it's enough. You don't need to put more. You don't need to over embellish the symbols and the meanings. Like, this speaks for itself. It's a wonder, because she has that wonder for the little things. But I'm not going to say I know exactly what this is about yet, because I feel like this is something that's just starting to. So I can't really explain it, but I don't know.
But it's something related
something
to this
is
idea
changing,
of
something's growing, and she feels a really big part of that for me in my artistic journey and my journey as a mother.
But it's cool that you see it as a work of art, because then it is, of course, right? And all the influences you
it's all creative. It's
all
all creation. It's all art.
And I can only imagine what I can remember certain things, because my mom was a painter. So I remember going to her atelier, to her studio, and I remember like dealing with the big brushes. She used to do oil paints mainly. So then the smell of oil paints is like to me it's a early childhood trigger, you know, like it's just I just remember it. So it's interesting to imagine what for her it would be, you know, like
over time
we had these big packages, and mom is there and she's creating something that didn't exist, and now it's here.
That magical side. That's you know what, as a mother, I found that's the absolute easiest thing to do, because becoming a mother is like a really big change in a woman's life. And the easiest way to kind of adapt to that is to not separate myself. Is I'm not a mother, I'm not a wife, I'm not Victoria. I'm all of these things in one. Like, there's no label.
Right.
Like, it's just my life.
That's a great way of seeing it, especially these days that people try to say, I am this, I am that, I'm that. Like, no, you are this multitude of things, right? It's like, you are all those, right?
And I think too, even with Instagram, is people feel like they got to make these separate accounts for all the different aspects of their lives. And it's like, your life is one thing. I mean, I'm not judging, but to me, that's the easiest, most natural expression of what's happening. Just let it all flow wherever it is, and if it needs to go in a category, it will go there itself. I have no time to organize, in other words. And
in your, like, that's actually a good like little like segue to about like Instagram. You have a lot of and I invite people to go take a look at your work there. That is, you put a lot of your final pieces, but you also put a lot of like the process of making it. So there are like images of you creating the artwork.
I try to. I want to show a little more of that, but I mean, I'm a Virgo. So I feel like, oh my God, there's still so much more that needs to be prepared here. But I think it's good to have
for sure.
that.
Like, show your work. Like, and whenever I see those images, like, they're always like interesting, and you do a lot of like walks on like by the woods and all that. Like, so it gives the context of the artist, which I think for your audience is an interesting thing too, right? Because you
never know what they like.
You can.
And
if you try to guess, it will
lose yourself.
But the way that you've been doing, I like. And can you talk a little bit about that thing that you have with like walking nature, walking by lakes and doing your walks and all that?
So that's something that's also changed a lot. I don't have that freedom to just sort of, run to the forest like I used to and just sit under a tree and figure out what I need to figure out. I don't have that luxury. But at the same time, I have this little girl that needs to get outside. She needs fresh air. Like, it's part of her growth. And so I make time for that. But I have to, it's more I'm seeing it through her. And I'm showing her everything than it's me interacting. So it's a different experience, but it's still very soulful. And like, I have her saying like, hello to the water, goodbye to the water, hi tree, bye tree. And like, every little thing that flutters by, she thinks is a fairy. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
At her age, I think it's fine.
I think it's okay. I think I'm really overemphasizing the existence of fairies, but it's okay. But yeah, it's different. Like, we're constantly talking to nature. Whereas my experience with nature before was very private, very quiet, very meditative. So now it's like this big interaction, and I think she feels like nature responds to her too. So and then it's like you're sort of like guiding her through this little world with you. Like, maybe that would change over time. And we see animals too. We see the birds. We see deer, rabbits.
I remember like when we met, like, you were talking about how you used to do these walks in like different parks and do your own like meditative thing and this communion with whatever magical things are there, like, and all that. It's I try to incorporate a bit of that kind of stuff, but I always have this thing that I like more places with people and more urban in a way. Like, I'm more drawn to that than to nature per se, but it's one of those things that over time I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I just don't know who is there that I should be meeting, like,
right.
Anyway, that's how I've been thinking about it. It's like, oh, there's no one there, why am I going to go to the
there
woods?
is.
But there is, exactly. It's
there is. It's a different energy.
And about that, because you have a lot of things that are related to I'll use the word, but like quote unquote, occult and the magic and all those things. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship? Because you were the one that got me back in terms of interest in the study to tarot and all those, the significance of that kind of stuff. And literally when I met you, you did like a reading for me right after, and it was like right a moment when I was like on like finishing a relationship and going somewhere else and what's gonna happen and all that. And I remember being like, I don't know, since I was 8 or 9, I was so into like specifically tarot because of the power of the images, like
archetypes again,
and then over time I sort of like let it go from a like mind point of view, but it was always on my mind how it could be. It's like undeniably powerful, whatever it is that is there. So can you talk a little bit about your relationship to the occult and all your other activities related to that and how they relate to your art?
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's
a little
a
bit.
big.
It's huge. I know. But just to get into that subject, whatever you're feeling.
Okay, so I am definitely aligned with concepts of magic. The idea of what you put comes back to you, intention-wise. And I also believe in the interaction of nature, which is a big component of this. And so, my relationship to the plant world, the animal world, I feel like it's all energy and it all interacts with us and there's all meaning behind it. That meaning differs for everyone. I mean, there's archetypes behind all of that too, and that interests me. But at the end of the day, I think I step away from the whole belief of magic when it comes to manipulating these natural forces to get what you want. I'm all for a good charm and good intentions about things. But at the end of the day, I really like the idea of things just kind of occurring the way they're meant to. I believe in magic. I respect magic.
You have a new relationship, I assume?
I wouldn't say new relationship. I just say that
new understanding.
It's an inspiration to me.
Yes.
And I live it, but I don't work with it as much as I think I do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know. I know exactly what you mean.
Like the whole image of a witch with a cauldron, like doing all this stuff. Like that's not me.
Oh, for sure. No. Like I always thought that the artists are like the way I've been thinking about
maybe this. The canvas is my cauldron and there's my witchery.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like that's sort of what I've been thinking. Like one of the main things I've been thinking about these days, because I started like a little like vlog that I talk about image making and things like that. But one of the things that are the main when I think of like, oh, why am I doing this? Like you see like in my house, like all around there's like artworks and things and stuff that I like. And I always think that images, they're sort of like, I'm sure music is the same way and all sorts of artworks are the same way, but specifically because I'm a visual artist and you are too. So my idea is that images, they're sort of like portals.
Totally.
Right? So they're like these portals that they're portal and they're mirrors at the same time. So you will see different things. That's
really good. Yeah.
Right? So like you see different things and you also, it's about your aspirations, your fears. You project a lot of stuff, and the artist bring from this magical worlds, whatever it is. He brings things and shows it to you, right? The things that you might not know. We all know when you see a good piece of art that resonates with you, it's all about what you know already in a way, like, but at the same time you need that activation. So I always see like artists in this more shamanistic tradition, like if you see paintings from like animals or things that are like 50,000-year-old paintings or 30,000-year-old paintings, or the sculpture that they found in Germany that is a lion man, 30,000 years old. It's the first time that they found anthropomorphized version of
when you put the human characteristics.
Like it's a body of a man and the face of a lion. right?
That's a lot like Sekhmet or Bast in Egyptian.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that kind. And they make some relationships to those, like that maybe there is a tradition that goes through, and even if it's not specifically a tradition, it's certainly human. Even when you get like to Chauvet, it's like this cave in France that it's 30,000 years old, and one of the things that they had is that they did the drawing of animals, but let's say there's like the stone, and the stone, of course, is not flat. Mm-hmm. So they incorporated the perspective
through the stone.
On the stone. And when Picasso went to that cave, allegedly he said, "Oh, we haven't learned anything." It's like it was all there already.
Yeah.
You know? Like
his perspective. Yeah.
He said like it's there, right? Because he's a guy that started with the super, super, super technical stuff, and then he slowly broke it down to more like
it's very Plato-like. Just making it fresh.
Yeah, and but I was always thinking that even those times, imagine the people that were into creating that kind of artwork. And I don't know if they were the hunters or if they were like the plant people that would do like
the witches.
The witches, yeah. Like, but they always had the most ancient cultures. They always have this shamanic, like shaman version that is both doctor, witch, artist, and they have all these things connected. Today we separated a lot of that.
Yes.
But I find like a lot of like the stuff that you create, that when you create, I always find like that's an artist that is using all these elements to say something personal, like about like, but using those elements. Like I haven't gotten there yet on my own stuff. I'm always thinking about what does this myth mean and how can I portray that myth? Whereas the way that I see your work, I see, she's using those things, but she's actually saying something more personal, like which to me makes it more powerful.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel, at least. So
sometimes it really is just a feeling you have to get out, and then by expressing it, it's shaping, and whatever is out there interacting with you, just like the portal, is helping you to create it, and it just. I don't know if that sounds really vague.
No, but it's
just exactly, kind of like let it out. It's an eternal thing.
Yeah.
And let the forces around you help build it.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good way of seeing it.
It's a lot like it's creation.
Yeah.
It's the creative force.
And you said that you're not very technical painter, but it's like
I suck.
No,
like, let's be honest. I don't know anything about perspective. I don't know how to do a straight line. Like, well, it's just a reality. But I don't let it stop me.
Yeah, and on that note, I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Because your paintings are really beautiful. Like, I really think they are.
Pedro.
And otherwise, why would you be here? But I really think they're really beautiful. And of course, it's like as if the way that I see it is like as if you got whatever technical things you needed to convey the ideas that you wanted to convey.
Right. I think the idea has felt more of a driving force and kind of like, I don't care at the end of the day if this is not right.
Yeah, there's
like,
no right.
If this doesn't measure up, you know what? Whatever.
Yeah,
it's more important that I got this expression out because.
Yeah. And for sure, and that's the thing. Like because even though I have interest in drawing and all those things, like I actually haven't. Even I remember like when I was a kid, I would try to draw and all that, and I found, because we're moving, I found all these things that I brought over time.
Moving will do that, yeah.
Literally, yeah. Like I was like, oh wow, I found like drawing when I was like 9 years old, and I was trying to do this character and this and that. Yeah. So it brings you back, but it's something that I always thought like, one day I will come back to doing to drawing and painting, but. What stopped me was always like, I have to learn everything properly or this or that. And then I'm actually very inspired whenever I see artists that they're doing their own thing. And even in this points of view of like, even if you talk about like perspective or like things like that, it's like, okay, for thousands of years we've created, like, it was a discovery at some point. But when you're trying to make a painting look like on 2D, look like how it would appear to the world. But art is not about that. That's why the same reason why I'm not interested in, like, in my own work in, like, let's say, to make a photo be realistic in the point of view of that's why I like creating a world instead of just capturing a place. And it's the same thing with, I think, with painting. It's like, okay, you can do something technically perfect, but it's not telling you anything. So then it's sort of painting by numbers. Then you don't, like, so what's the point of that? I mean, if you're into that, cool, but like it's not. And it creates, at least the way that I see the stuff that you do, it creates an interesting thing that it's a style that is basically, it's your style. Like, it's not something that is that you'll see other people doing exactly the same way, because you learned all of this on your own, right? It's not like someone went and said you should do this, this, and that, right?
And anytime someone tried to teach me, it's like I have this block, this inability to like learn these things.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
It's even I interviewed for the podcast one artist. He's a Brazilian guy that he lives by the beach and he paints and but he's like a Marvel Comics, like one of the main guys, like in Marvel, and he learned all on his own. Like he's like. And then he does the way, like, whatever he wants. And then he learns some, like, technical things just to make it, like...
Yeah.
It's different when it's someone pushing a certain thing on you, or when you're trying to gather the vocabulary, artistic vocabulary that you need to express yourself, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I don't want to mislead in the idea that I'm entirely self-taught and I don't have any training. I mean, I did go to school for art.
Oh, cool. All right.
Not specifically. I mean, I got my degree in English.
Yes, I remember that.
And then I spent some time teaching yoga.
Yes.
Not really knowing what I was going to do with my life. Then I thought of becoming a teacher. So I went back to get a second teachable, which would have been art. So I took a minor in art. So I had some training there.
Oh,
and all those perspective teachings and all of like the technical things, oh my god, I did not do well. It was a struggle. But I did learn things.
But that's the thing, like you sort of like you get those things that you need, and then
you do need it. You do need that structure. You do need
a couple things. You should know that you
some
should
basics.
Sharpen your like I don't know, your pencils or something like
it's like a map, right?
And I mentioned that because you did a couple of I remember a couple of drawings. Those are more drawings than paintings, that they were so, especially the borders. It was like it was a woman, and then the borders are black and white, and
I like
the borders were like so intricate and so filled with like details, and at the same time you're super organic as well. Like,
they're not like balanced or.
Yeah, like they're balanced, but they're not.
No, but you know what I mean.
Symmetric. And
not symmetrical.
Yeah. Then, but like those are. That's why, like, your paintings and your drawings, they're very, very detailed. Like, because you can go in. It's like, okay, you have the general view of whatever it is, and then you go closer, and then you go closer, and it goes. Oh, there's like all these things going on, which is what most art that I admire is the ones that. Over time, as you look at them, you start seeing different relationships. So, is that something you create on purpose? Do you start with an open, like a general idea of what you want, and then you create the details, or do you start the details and then
I think one of the reasons why I don't show a lot of work in progress is because they change so much. I have an initial idea. Maybe a photo or a movie or even a book I'm reading is a major source of inspiration for me. And it's like a mood that overcomes me. And then I take the focal point. It's like, okay, it's this feeling of sitting in a tree or being by the ocean or whatever. And then I get to it and then I start drawing, so let's say a fox. And then the fox changes it. And then all of a sudden we're in a house. And it just changes the more I add, and it becomes a different thing. And then even the colors change. It's never once. I've never done one painting from start to finish and I've known what it's going to be.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how I used to, when I used to like try to do some drawings and paintings
and you feel
and things.
sad because something might have felt so intense.
Yeah.
But it never ended up coming through. But maybe it led you to that place.
Yeah.
And it is there.
Yeah.
The echo of it.
Oh, for sure. And
that's the layers of all the things that speak to you.
Yeah. Yeah, like what I was thinking, like whenever sometimes I had ideas for photos and they didn't come through exactly, or I couldn't do it. And then later on, they would lead to a different image. So like, even though I was thinking for this image, one thing, it was actually the trigger for another one. But that's something in photography I really don't have that much. That is like, I create what I want to create, and I may change things in composition, or like, oh, if I go more to this side or that side, or sometimes I remember doing like one big scene with 10 people, and I liked one corner. That's my photo.
Yeah.
All the rest doesn't matter. Like, it took all this like making to get to that. Of course, I ended up like doing the whole scene, but I found.
I like work like that though too, and there's that one little area that really speaks to you. Yeah.
But that's the advantage of like painting, because you can create your world. Like in photography, I have to like. It's more of a conspiracy with other people to do things, right?
Yeah, well, photography can be very technical, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have to know
but
a lot.
But I'm thinking more from the idea point of view, because from the technical point of view, if you're thinking technique, then your image usually, it may end up nice, but the technique has to be invisible. Right? Like I usually, let's say I have an idea. It's like, I have no idea how to do this. Like, how do I light this? What kind of camera, kind of lens, whatever thing to give the effect that I want. The way that I see it, it's like I have this image in my mind to compare to painting. The way that I see it, it's like, I don't know which brush to use to make it look like rain. How the hell do I make rain? Like, oh, then there is like those tricks that you get the brush with water and something else, and then you sprinkle to make it look not rain, but it looks like, let's say you want to do something, you put white paint and you want to make it look like it's snowing. So if you get those brushes, they're like more open.
Yeah,
and
like
then
a fan.
And then you do like this. It will sprinkle like things like, so I remember because I was trying to create that effect on a painting one day, and then it's like, oh, that's how you do it. Okay, cool. So I try to do that
as you go.
So you learn certain things, and then that element of the technique becomes invisible to you because you know how to do it.
It becomes another tool in the kit.
Yeah, and for you, it's probably the same. Like, you know how to draw a face, you know how to do this the way you like it, like, so it's not like whenever you're doing that, you're using whatever technique you created to make that thing come forward.
Yes.
And in photography, it has to be that way, in a way, like this for me, because I cannot create the image if I don't know how to. But as soon as I know how to, it doesn't matter how you do it.
Yeah, it's free flowing from there.
But at the same time, it's very planned. It's not like I can... It's a mix of what... there's this photographer, that he talks about the difference between video and film. And he uses one analogy that I'll tell you. But I'm trying to imagine what would be the analogy from photo to painting or to drawing. Because from film to photos, the way he was talking about is that film is more like fishing and photos is more like hunting. The point is, I create like, and he was talking about going after an image. So you hunt for it. Like you have the camera, so you go to one side, you go to another side, you go up, you go down, you change the light. All the things you're doing, you're hunting for the image that you want. That's what his way of saying. I don't really see it that way, but it's a good analogy. Then for filming, it's like you set things up and then you fish. You try to get the image you want because over time you have 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there. This angle,
I don't
that
get the
angle.
Filming one, but I get the photography.
Yeah,
one.
the filming is more like you won't be able to... The idea of fishing is more like you set things up and you wait for those things to emerge.
Sounds almost like painting more.
Interesting, yeah. I wouldn't... I wouldn't know because I haven't done
I have no experience with film.
Yeah, so but that's why I was thinking like what would be the analogy for a painting, because you're basically, in terms of creating something, you're basically budgetless, right? It's like you want a castle, you make a castle. right?
I think at the end of the day, though, it's like, what are we all waiting for? What are we all looking for?
In what sense?
Well, you're hunting, you're fishing, we're waiting for that image to appear so that we can capture it. What is that?
What you mean, the act of
the act, like, what is that? Is it an emotion? It's almost like it's something spiritual.
Oh yeah.
And I think about like religious people and how they're praying, or they're trying to connect to God, or they're trying to, it's like this abstract thing that we're putting on a pedestal that we want to understand and we want to convey. But we only have a certain amount of tools that we know how to use in order to understand this thing.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
No, that's, yeah. That's it.
That interests me. Yeah.
It's just my mind was going like, one of the things is like, sometimes we don't know why we create certain
why are we
images.
driven to this?
Oh yeah, it's I'm sure it's a personality thing, like because there is like, if you think of the like, you know, like those in psychology, you have like this big 5 personality traits,
right?
And so like people, and I recently did like one of this, like,
which one are you? Which one are you?
It's like 5. The way that task goes, like supposedly the way they created this test, it's like all the personality traits, they arrived from data. So they put all these questions to people and see what appears. So basically they compare 5 elements on your personality. It's extroversion and introversion. It's basically 5 elements, and then each one is bifurcated into 2. So it's basically 10 dimensions of your personality. So, but let me see if I can remember them all. But it's basically how extroverted, introverted you are.
Yeah.
Then there is how open, it's the creativity element, which is like open to experience. So some people are super closed, they're not very creative, and some people are extremely creative, and you can be not creative but extroverted. Those are different things.
Yeah.
Then there is one that is how conscientious you are, which means
ethics?
more maybe ethics, but it's more like conscientious is more
awareness?
Like how disciplined you are, and if you say you're going to do something, you do it, and how I can't have the house with any kind of dust, otherwise I'll be crazy. You know, that kind of stuff. Then there is the negative emotion element. It's sort of like your level. I can't remember the exact name, so people can Google it. But it's like your level of neuroticism. In the sense of like how worried you are about things. That's one other element. And then the 5th, I'm trying to remember. It's agreeableness. So how agreeable you are.
Oh, I'm definitely low on that one.
Low on agreeableness? I'm very agreeable. It's like, you should see me.
I'm selective about that.
Oh really? Yeah. No, like but like on those, but then like on those 5 things, like I'm ridiculously agreeable. Like,
well, you're very likable, Pedro.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind, but that's a problem. Like, and then no, but like I'm usually trying to like make everything work for the person, accommodate for the person that I'm with.
It's very kind.
Yeah, but it's pain in the ass sometimes. And I'm very low in neuroticism, so I'm usually chill.
High in that.
Oh yeah, Then I'm super extroverted and super open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then, but that's I mentioned all this like personality things because when I saw that, and also my what's the word? My conscientiousness, meaning my sticking to things, it's 0 percentile. So
really?
So I had to learn how to do a lot of things because I'm completely like daydreaming and it's just a personality thing, and then you have to work on it.
Yeah.
You know, like but like for me, like the openness is like some people, they need to do artwork. You know, like you have an idea and you want to express it. Somehow.
It's funny you say that because like I don't really identify as an artist. Yet it's the only work that feels right to me.
Yeah.
In the sense that I'm neurotic. I'm not the kind of person that can just go with the flow sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty But I mean, what really is an artist at the end of the day?
Oh yeah, like I wouldn't use the stereotype of what an artist should be, because like I'm a guy
think what I grew up hearing like about an artist is they're free spirits, right? But
no, I think you're probably free spirit in the sense of your mind that you let it
probably
create
ends there.
things. Yeah, like, but not in a like I'm wear t-shirts and jeans and I don't have red hair, right? Like painted like green hair.
But your wife does.
Like, oh, yeah, right. But like, yeah, like I think the stereotypes of what an artist is sort of like almost irrelevant.
It's limiting,
like,
yeah.
Because to me, you're certainly an artist in the good one, and getting better over time. I see your stuff. Not better. So. I don't like the idea of better, because it's like I printed my first photograph the other day. Like it's like, oh, all the elements that I was searching for, they were already there, even though I didn't know that I was searching for those specific things.
You want to see a consistency too.
Yeah.
You want to see art evolve, but you also want to feel like the artist is always there too. At least I do. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. And I think it naturally happens if you let your artistic side do its thing, right? Because it's like you were not. I have a friend of mine. He's into like more like male figure kind of a thing, like, and he's like. He's a gay guy, and he's into the male form. And whenever I see glory, yeah, exactly. So whenever I saw like his artwork, and we were talking the other day, and then I was like, he gets it, but he loves it, yeah, and he gets it even for a guy that is straight. That's what we admire in the male body, the way he does it, sort of like Conan style kind of a thing. It's like, I don't want to be like Conan, but you appreciate of what that means archetypically. He's
able to bring forth the beauty of it.
Yeah, and the way that he does it, and I think you do. Yes, it is. Yeah, and then like the way that you do it, I like for the female figures, like I love the way you do it, but I mean like. But you are drawn to certain things, and if suddenly you decided you're going to sculpt muscular men,
but that's the thing. I am starting to try and draw men too.
Oh, that's amazing! Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if it's like the solar energy, but it's something I'm trying to experiment with.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like we could always change subjects, but as long as they come from like inside, right? It's like, oh, there's something there. Let me explore. So, let's see what's there, right?
Yeah.
To finish off our conversation, because I know you have to go.
Yeah.
It's part of being a mom.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here today and connecting after a while. And I'm really glad we connected. I can talk about art and stuff for a long time. You're creating this new body of work, and how is it you're now with a kid and all that, like you're trying to focus more on your artwork, or are you having other kinds of like side jobs to accommodate things? Or because you have a nice following on Instagram, you have people buying your stuff, like how is that your approach, let's say business wise, to your art that you're doing now? Like,
you know what, one of the good things here is, I mean, being a mother, it's a 24-hour job. Like, I parent at night too. Like, it never stops. So one of the good things about that for a neurotic person is you don't have time to worry. You don't have time to let your mind go into places that it shouldn't. So when you have time, you seize that time and you just use it for whatever you need or whatever you want. And I've just become really, really appreciative of every little pocket I get to pour my creativity into, to get things done for my business, for myself. So in that sense, I think keeping that positive mindset is really good for staying in the flow of my business, which I'm very grateful has maintained.
No, that's cool.
I mean, I have to sometimes also schedule time to get some actual painting work in, but that's okay, because then,
and it's part of the time as soon as like your daughter goes to school.
And at the same time, like I want to be there with her. I'm that kind of parent too. Like,
of course. Oh, yeah,
I don't trust anybody.
I know, I get it.
So I'm very involved, and I've just sort of learned that she's a part of this. We do it together.
Yeah. No,
just like I said, like if when you have children and you still want to travel, like travel, do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's all kinds of paths for
Yeah.
that, and but it's very cool to see. I'm looking forward to photographing you at some point soon, just in your like environment and the stuff that you're painting and all that. And so, if people want to check out your work, where should they go?
I'm probably most active on Instagram. Mm-hmm. I do have a Facebook account, but forgive me, I haven't been posting there in a while. I just don't like Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is
I can't.
It's a dead horse.
It feels like a yearbook page. I don't know. At least mine does. Instagram, you can find me at Lady Tour. Mm-hmm. And then I guess just my Etsy shop.
Mm-hmm. So I'll put links. So Lady Tour, I'll put links on show notes and everything. But people should go and check it out because you're one of my favorite artists. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Pedro.
Yeah, and I hope we talk again about whenever your solar part of your art gets in. We'll talk about that. So
for sure.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Pedro.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you for listening to the Wanderings podcast. You can find show notes and links at pedrobonatto.com/podcast. If you like the show, I would love if you could share it with your friends or leave a review on iTunes. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find me on all social media at Pedro Bonatto. I would love to hear from you. You can find my photography work at pedrobonatto.com. The music for the Wanderings podcast is provided by the Blue Dot Ensemble, a music and dance group exploring traditions from all over the planet, where I am one of the founders and the lead drummer. You can find us at bluedotensemble.com. So tune in next week for another show. Until then, I urge you to keep following your curiosity, and I'm looking forward to our next Wanderings together.